think people here in Congress as well, that our immigration system is broken, it needs fixing. It's one of the most important issues that we face as a nation. And I see a lot of heads shaking. A lot of people would agree with that statement. And so this is a huge priority, and I appreciate the passion and the interest and the time that we're taking here tonight. I can tell you that I can look my constituents directly in the eye, and with certainty, I can say that this consensus legislation that we are considering here today, I would say is the best opportunity that we as a United States Congress have had in years, in fact in decades, to improve the immigration system that we have in our nation. If we can get this signed into law, it will truly be a lasting, substantive improvement to our, what I would call a broken system. Now, no doubt that this is difficult, that it's complex. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's dynamic. A lot of things to understand here. We have two immigration attorneys in front of us explaining it to us, and it's not easy stuff. A lot of things for us to get our heads around it. But this is an issue that this whole Congress has been working on for a long time. I am heartened by the fact that this is the issue of the day, that it is on everybody's mind that's here in this Congress. I think that's great. I really do. And I think we're on the verge of doing something really good. So I appreciate everyone's time here. So, H.R. 6136, the Border Security and Immigration Reform Act. I always love the titles that we assign to things around here. It shows a lot of creativity on the part of our staff, so thank you. But includes some really important main things that we have to keep in mind. And I should say that, and we can't ignore this, it's the only bill that it touches on all four pillars that the President has made very clear are his priorities. So I think that's an important consideration. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, if we want something signed into law, we have to take that into consideration. So, if you allow me, Mr. Chairman, to just briefly touch on a couple of things that I think are important in this bill. It includes desperately needed appropriations for improving our border security. It's the only bill being offered that appropriates funding for further construction of the border wall, as well as that many new technological advances for accomplishing that goal. Provides for modernization of the system we use, personnel, all the things that we need to accomplish that important work and responsibility. You know, our border security system, as we've seen, it needs improvement. It needs fixing. And so I would look to all of my colleagues, but certainly those on this side of the aisle, that my conservative colleagues, that this is probably the best shot we have to improve that system, the best one. It's the opportunity we have to live up to the commitment we've made to our constituents. And I think we should grab that opportunity. Let's get our border secure. It also includes desperately needed a solution for the DACA population, and those dreamers, the DACA eligible individuals. Many of you know, I've said this many times, that I have the second highest number of DACA individuals in my district of the Republican Conference. In my state, my district has the highest number of DACA individuals in the state of Washington. And I can tell you, I've met with hundreds of these young people. In fact, Monday afternoon, I met with a group of young men and women who, every single one of you would be proud to call your constituents. They're all of them DACA recipients. Hard-working, good people, want to make their communities better, want to make our nation better, and want the opportunity to be able to do so, have the hope of being able to be here and truly be a legal part of this country. So again, this is an opportunity to make that hope come true for those individuals who truly can, if we allow them, contribute tremendously to our country. And then this bill also addresses the situation that we've all been witness to regarding the separation of families that we're experiencing at the border. I agree, children should not be taken away from their parents. But I also agree that we can enforce our laws and enforce our border while we keep families together. But this is an example of just one more piece of our broken immigration system. It's not working for anyone. And it's another example that truly shows that this is something we desperately need to fix. And this legislation makes it clear that minors at the border must not be separated from their parent or legal guardian. Mr. Chairman, just in the last couple of days, I was able to watch an interview of a Border Patrol agent. His name was Chris Cabrera. And if I could quote him, I'd like to do that. So, during this interview, I'll quote Mr. Cabrera. Please, if you don't listen to anything else I say, listen to what this individual had to say about his experience protecting our border. So Mr. Cabrera, a Border Patrol agent, a federal employee that works for us, the taxpayers, he says, we've had this situation going on for 4 years now, and for some reason we haven't fixed it. I don't think you can necessarily blame it on one administration or the other. It started under one and is continuing under another. It hasn't been fixed, and it needs to be fixed. Right now we have this beacon of, we'll leave the light on for you and let you come illegally into our country. If you've seen some of the stuff we've seen down here, you would understand just how important it is to have a tough stance to divert people from coming here. When you see a 12-year-old girl with a Plan B pill, her parents put her on birth control because they know getting violated is a part of the journey. That's a terrible way to live. When you see a 4-year-old girl traveling completely alone with just her parents' phone number written across her shirt, something needs to be done. We had a 9-year-old boy last year have a heat stroke and die in front of us with no family around. That's because we're allowing people to take advantage of this system. Let's be honest here. If we want this law changed, then that's on Congress. That's on nobody else but Congress. They need to get to work and change this law. End quote. So I would respectfully, with all due respect, challenge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Please do not join Senator Schumer, who says there's no need for legislation, because there is a need. And while it can be very easy to make this political and to say that just the president can fix it, and that this is an effort to score political points, this is way too important. Congress must legislate on this. And with this bill in front of us, that's exactly what we're doing. Now, to me, something that's very important that this legislation does not address, unfortunately, is the desperate need for a reliable, efficient, and fair program for American farmers to be able to access a legal, stable supply of employees. Our broken H-2A guest worker program has hobbled much of the ag industry from attaining a reliable workforce, and you all know that.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I would like the gentleman to know that if sitting in front of him is amendment number to HR 4760, which has got a number 15. If the gentlemen were able to see that, it is proposed at this time that be considered for inclusion. The documentation that you have here is Title II Agricultural Worker Reform, which I believe was brought forth by the distinguished young chairman, Mr. Goodlatte. At the time, he was a chairman of the Agriculture Committee and saw many of the ideas that perhaps the distinguished gentleman saw when he was the Commissioner for Agriculture in the state of Washington. But I wanted the gentleman to know that while that was passed out, he may not be aware that that would be under consideration this evening. I thank the gentleman.
Chairman, is this the manager's amendment? Just sort of.
In fact, it would be considered that.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're right, this was just handed to me.
Yes, sir. I just didn't, I wanted you to be aware. I didn't.
This is an amendment to HR 47.
It would be, I believe it would be considered number 15, the manager's amendment.
If I may, this is the changes that you and others, including the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, negotiated with I and other members who authored that bill to improve the agricultural guest worker program. And it's my hope, and there have been a lot of discussions with other members of our conference, that this would be made in order to improve that provision in the bill, so it would be what you were expecting and what you were hoping for. With regard to the second bill, as you know, it's not in there. I wish it were, but it's not. And we've been promised that if that bill passes, we will have a agricultural guest worker and E-Verify bill separately. So it's very important to address the issue.
I'm aware of that, and I appreciate the chairman pointing out that this amendment, though, is to Goodlatte 1, and I in my comments I was referring to Goodlatte 2, but I appreciate the clarification and look forward to the discussion on that. And then let me just say that the chairman, reclaiming my time.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. I just meant to provide the gentleman
thank you.
A statement of support. I did not mean to interrupt the gentleman in any way.
Chairman Goodlatte has, I can't say enough, he's been an advocate. He's been a strong leader for reforming this the agricultural guest worker program, and I want to thank him for much his dedication over a long period of time over the years to do so, and also I know the speaker and the majority leader have committed publicly, and they've committed to me personally that we will consider seasonal worker, agricultural worker legislation before the August recess, and so I'm very heartened by that. And Mr. Goodlatte, I pledge to work with you on that so that we can be as successful as we possibly can, and would hope every other member in this chamber would do the same. So the legislation before us doesn't fix every piece of immigration system, but it does take a major consensus-based step forward toward addressing many main important components, including providing certainty for those DACA individuals, and also for securing the border once and for all, which is a very important thing for the people of this country. Both of those items. And so I applaud the legislation for that. Now, many of my constituents have asked me the question, why aren't Democrats supporting this? It covers the things that they want to, providing for the certainty for DACA individuals. Why isn't this a more bipartisan bill? And it may be just, I suppose there's a lot of reasons. There could be almost 200 different reasons, but it may be as simple as this, because it's actually something the president would sign into law. This is something that could actually become law. Even though it provides certainty for DACA populations, and even though it provides for the terrible situation we're seeing with family separation down at the border, anything that actually fulfills the president's goal of securing the border. It seems to me that my Democratic colleagues would refuse to vote for that. And I think most of you know that I'm not one to participate in using hyperbolic terms on a regular basis, but I don't think that it's hyperbolic to say that many of my Democratic colleagues may not want to secure our border or enforce our immigration laws. And they certainly do not seem to me to want to give our president something that he thinks is a huge priority.